Psylocke is... Oh, okay. You may not know the whole story. It's silly, but not quite as complicated as you may imagine, so I'm going to try to give you the best version of the Psylocke, Betsy, Kwannon body-swapping story that I can. I think it's important to understand the difference between both personalities since they are different people who keep popping in and out of each other's lives, and keeping track of them can be kind of confusing. So here's what happened. We start in 1976 with Captain Britain 8. We learned that Betsy and her twin brother Brian were born to the Braddocks, a wealthy British family. Betsy led a charmed life as a supporting character in her brother Brian's Captain Britain adventures. Betsy was a pilot, she was a model, she could kind of see the future but more or less, Betsy had a good time when she wasn't being kidnapped or whatever. Eventually, Betsy became a full-on mutant. Telepathy, lots of pink energy, and purple hair. With her new powers, Betsy joined Strike, the UK Shield, and became a spy. And then, when Brian needed to abandon his post as Captain Britain, Betsy took it up and had some adventures that left Betsy blinded, which, bad but not career-ending since she could still use her telepathy to sort of see. However, Mojo, who I explained in a Nebula video, kidnapped Betsy, gave her cybernetic eyes, and the name Psylocke. Cool name. Then, in 1986, Psylocke joins the X-Men after she defends the X-Mansion from an attack led by Sabretooth. And Betsy joins right in time to get killed with all the rest of the X-Men and then revived in secret by Roma, a multiversal guardian. They live in Australia for a while. But then, Betsy has a vision that the team needs to abandon their base and sends everyone through something called the Siege Perilous, a magic do-over device. Cut to Uncanny X-Men 255 in 1989. Betsy comes out of the Siege Perilous in Japan and is found by the Hand, a bunch of evil ninjas, and brainwashed into being one of their assassins. And since they need someone who could blend in better in Japan, they gave Betsy plastic surgery to make her look like this. However, this was a cover identity that was created for Betsy. She was born looking like a white girl in Britain, but got plastic surgery and turned into this. Was it racist? Kind of, although that's not the entire story. It was not intended to stay that way, but people loved the design by Jim Lee, so it did. Betsy became the ninja we're familiar with, joined up with the X-Men, it was all good. But actually, 4 years later, while Psylocke was hanging out in the X-Mansion trying to seduce Scott Summers, because that's just what she did for fun those days, another character appeared claiming to be Betsy. Kind of. She called herself Revanche, and she looked like this. Betsy pre-surgery, but that didn't make any sense. Betsy just got surgery, right? Why would there be a second version of her running around? Well, here's the thing. Fabian Nicieza, who was writing X-Men at the time, had not read X-Men 255, the issue with the plastic surgery explanation. He just thought the whole Betsy Psylocke thing was an open-ended mystery that he was going to solve. Here's the explanation that we get a few years later in X-Men 31, the one they ended up sticking with. Betsy washed up in the shore of Japan after the Siege Perilous trip and was rescued by a ninja working for the Hand named Kwannon, spelled Kwannon. Her. Kwannon worked for a crime boss named Nyorian, but was in love with a ninja from another faction who was named Matsuo Trayaba. Kwannon touched Betsy and the two became linked by Betsy and Kwannon's psychic powers. Then, during a duel with Matsuo, Kwannon fell off a cliff and her brain was badly damaged, basically brain dead. Uh-oh, Matsuo doesn't know what to do, but he finds the comatose Betsy, and because of her previous connection to Kwannon, Matsuo comes up with a plan. He brings the brain-dead Kwannon to the Mandarin who keeps her alive. Then, Matsuo convinces Mojo's henchman Spiral to heal both women and sort of use Betsy to do a psychic jumpstart on Kwannon's brain. Then Matsuo's Kwannon will be healed and Matsuo and the Mandarin can use her as a psychic ninja to do murders. She would not have done this before, since she and Matsuo were part of dueling assassins guilds. But she's gonna have her mind wiped. Nobody really cares what happens to Betsy, but Nyorian decides to nurse Betsy back to health. So Matsuo needs Mandarin's help to restore Kwannon. Mandarin needs a new assassin, but Spiral, Mojo's assistant who does the magic necessary for the jumpstart, also hates Betsy. So, when she was doing the psychic jumpstart, Spiral messed with both women. Imagine their minds are bowls of soup. She basically took both mind soups out of their body and mixed them together in a big bowl, then made a new mind soup and poured the new soup into both women. So both women had a mind that was half Kwannon and half Betsy, which means both women had some Betsy hidden in there. But since Mandarin planned to mentally condition Kwannon anyway, this should really not have been a problem. So that's what happened. And then Matsuo took Kwannon and Nyorian took Betsy. Betsy, who also now looked sort of Asian for some reason. Kwannon goes on being an assassin for the Mandarin and runs into Wolverine, who recognizes her but knows something's wrong. And when she tries to stab him with her psychic knife, it backfires and unlocks the Betsy part of her mind. From this point forward, Kwannon fully believes she is and has always been the only Betsy, but she looks like this. But we all called her Betsy, and she joined the X-Men. Everything you associate with Psylocke: bathing suit, purple hair, psychic knife, Asian features, and a British accent. But then this Betsy shows up in May of 1993, and they both think they're the real Betsy because they both have a little bit of Betsy's mind soup, and they both look like a version of Betsy, and Professor X cannot tell their minds apart. Logan cannot smell a difference between them, so they just both hang around. This one calls herself Revanche, and this one is Psylocke. But then, Revanche gets the legacy virus and dies in April of 1994, and she stayed dead for a little while. In the meantime, Psylocke, now the only Betsy, remains on the X-Men. She is killed but resurrected and gains the power to teleport and a red mark on her face. Then she joins the Extreme X-Men and is killed again. This time she's resurrected by her brother, Jamie, who has the ability to warp reality. Jamie brings Betsy back because he knows the X-Men need her to fight a villain called the First Fallen. Fast forward to 2007, we've got the Exiles days. Lots of multiverse hopping and stuff, not super important. But Psylocke gets captured by the villain Madeline Pryor, and Pryor digs up Revanche's body and transfers Betsy's mind into Revanche. So now we have a fully Betsy Revanche. Pryor mind controls Betsy into fighting the X-Men. Revanche is killed and Betsy takes over Psylocke's body again, and new status quo is returned and Revanche is dead again. Then 2010, Psylocke fights on Uncanny X-Force for a while alongside Wolverine, Angel, Phantom X, and Deadpool. Not super important. Some time passes. It's 2018. Wolverine dies, very sad, and a team of X-Men, basically all of the non-Jean Grey women, go to Madripoor to investigate the disappearance of Wolverine's corpse. One of the X-Men that comes along is Psylocke. And while they are in Madripoor, our team is ambushed by a team of villains led by Viper. Sure, whatever. Except one of those villains is a psychic vampire named Sapphire Styx, who absorbs Betsy's mind and kills Betsy. But then, Betsy's consciousness inside Sapphire's mind takes over, and Betsy rebuilds her own body atom by atom and is reborn. But it's the original white Betsy body, so Betsy is original Betsy again. And also, Kwannon, in the Psylocke body, appears in Madripoor, so I guess she remade herself as well, or whatever, who cares. We are finally back to where we started. Betsy Braddock is a white girl with psychic powers, and Kwannon is a Japanese ninja with psychic powers. And this is what we've been working with for the last few years. Kwannon is her own person, goes by Psylocke, and Betsy is her own person who has taken up her brother's mantle of Captain Britain. Both women have psychic powers, and both women use purple or pink psychic swords. Betsy's is a broadsword, Kwannon's is a katana. I need you to understand this whole story, because here's what I think they do in the movies. I think Betsy Braddock will be a supporting player in a Captain Britain movie or series. She will gain mutant powers, but largely stay with the Captain Britain powers, and they'll just call her Betsy, or Braddock, or even Revanche if they really want to, but probably not, because that name's difficult to say. She will probably hang out with the X-Men from time to time, but I bet she'll stay in Britain. Then, in another part of the world, a ninja named Kwannon, who goes by Psylocke, will defect from her team of ninjas when she meets Wolverine, and he will take Psylocke back to the X-Men. Anything we associate with Psylocke will probably happen to Kwannon. She will join the X-Force, join the Exiles, romance Angel, and perhaps the two will meet in a scene and compliment each other on their hair and psychic swords and make a joke about they should hang out more often.